Managing visibility, time and space. Volunteer. This is the first of the instructional sessions that make up the AAA Driver Improvement Program. The purpose of this program is to help you better understand the risks involved in driving and how to better manage risk, the chance of injury, damage, or loss. Through the description of traffic situations, the program demonstrates that most traffic crashes have many causes and nearly all can be prevented. The concepts presented in this section are: 1. Risk management involves controlling visibility, time and space, and being aware of the amount of traction available. 2. Crash prevention. Traffic crashes are caused by preventable mistakes committed by all drivers involved. And 3. Introduction to future sessions. Segment 1, Risk Management. Segment 1, Risk Management, is designed to emphasize how to control risk when driving.
The purpose of this program is to help you understand the risks involved in driving and how to better manage risk, the chance of injury, damage, or loss. Managing risk when you drive involves controlling visibility, time and space, and being aware of the amount of traction available. It is rare to be able to determine the level of risk with complete accuracy. However, there are guidelines that can help you assess conditions more accurately, predict the actions of other roadway users, and make decisions with a more realistic concept of the consequences. Available evidence shows that most drivers take about 5 years to reach the performance level of the general driving public. In fact, more than 40% of new drivers will either be convicted of a traffic violation or be involved in a reportable crash during their first 12 months of driving. Many of these crashes will result in injuries or fatalities. A number of factors contribute to traffic crashes. One major driver-related factor is lack of awareness of the level of risk associated with driving, of environmental conditions, or of cues to other highway users' possible actions. This lack of awareness is illustrated by a study that showed 37% of 11,878 drivers involved in collisions took no action to avoid the crash. For all practical purposes, they were unaware they were on a collision course. This problem appears to worsen with age. Another study revealed that only about 10% of drivers realize that nearly one driver in 5 is involved in a crash annually. 30% believe the chances were only about 1 in 1,000. In short, they rationalized, "It will never happen to me." Unfortunately, if people are unaware of risk or refuse to accept the evidence of risk, they're not apt to try to control or reduce the level of risk. There are guidelines that can assist to more accurately assess conditions, predict the actions of other roadway users, and make decisions with a more realistic concept of the consequences. To help you understand these guidelines, put yourself in the driver's seat. The first guideline is, risk is always present. Think about how you would assess the level of risk in these illustrations. Believe it or not, the probability of a crash is about the same in A and B. While most drivers assume the level of risk is very low in both illustrations, they tend to think maybe situation B is the more dangerous. After all, even though there's no visible cross-traffic, there is an intersection. Situation A appears to be safe. The road is straight. There are no intersections or apparent threatening objects or conditions. Surprisingly, the risk and consequences are about the same in both situations. Approximately 50% of all vehicle occupant fatalities involve single vehicle crashes, most of which occur on relatively straight roadways. the driver runs off the road, responds incorrectly, if at all, strikes a fixed object, or overturns. This type of crash occurs more frequently among young drivers and drivers over 65 years of age. The basic difference is that whereas young drivers tend to crash at night, older drivers tend to have their mishaps during the day. The second guideline is perceived risk differs from actual risk. Ask yourself, what factor indicates increased risk in these illustrations? From the driver's point of view, the potential risk in situation A and B is about equal. The factor that signals increased risk in both situations is blocked vision. Whenever visibility is limited, drivers must be alert and respond to a potentially dangerous condition, rather than driving blindly into a crisis situation. The third factor, risk, is shared. How can the roadway users in these situations affect the level of risk for others? Again, the risk is about equal in both situations. Depending on their actions, the people shown in both illustrations can either increase or decrease risk for each other. Whether the pedestrian in A runs across the road or you speed up, the action of either of you can affect the other. In situation B, the other driver may pull in front of you, or you may veer from your path to the right. It's important to remember that actions of all roadway users, pedestrians, animals, bicyclists, or drivers, affect all other users. The costs resulting from any crash are not restricted to persons who fail to take safety precautions. High medical and rehabilitation expenses affect everyone through higher insurance premiums and increased taxes. The fourth factor, risk, can be altered. How would you handle these situations? Situation A is best handled by a slight reduction in speed, so you don't arrive at a point near the pedestrian until after the oncoming car passes. The worst action you could take in situation B would be to encourage the tailgater to pass. Managing risk starts with an aggressive visual search. An aggressive visual search of the roadway and off-road areas will give you more time and help you achieve early awareness of other highway users. Predict possible actions of other highway users. Identify possible escape routes. Determine the level and difference in traction. Assess the consequences of alternate responses. Adjust your speed and/or position well in advance.
Segment 2, Collision Prevention. Segment 2, Collision Prevention, is designed to emphasize the prevention of traffic crashes rather than taking a legalistic approach to their causes.
You are among the approximately 190 million licensed drivers in the United States. The safety record is the best of any country in the world. American drivers average over 1 million miles of driving for each injury-producing crash. This adds up to about 3 million injuries each year, at the cost of over $180 billion. Who causes these crashes? Is it speeders? Reckless drivers? Sometimes it is. People who break traffic laws are more likely to be involved in crashes than people who don't. Yet the great majority of drivers in crashes are people who have a good driving record. People who drive safely most of the time make a bad mistake every once in a while. Let's look at a typical collision. The driver of the blue car is about to enter an expressway collector-distributor lane. He's waiting for the red car to pass. As soon as that car passes, the driver of the blue car speeds up so he can get out in front of the yellow car. Whoops! The driver of the red car realizes he is about to miss his exit. He lays on the brakes to slow down for the off-ramp. The driver of the blue car is checking on traffic coming up from behind and doesn't see what's happened. Now he does, but it's too late to stop. What could each driver have done to prevent the collision? Consider the actions of the driver of the red car, the blue car, and the yellow car.
The basic mistakes committed by each of the drivers involved were as follows. The driver of the red car made a sudden lane change without signaling. The probable cause for this behavior was failure to pay attention to signs identifying the interchange, and that he wanted to get off at this point. In short, it demonstrates the risks of failing to devote one's entire attention to driving. The correct action would have been to drive on to the next exit when he realized the nature of his mistake. The driver of the blue car failed to give proper attention to the road ahead when observing traffic on the expressway collector-distributor. This mistake was compounded by his failure to 1. Anticipate cars slowing in the path ahead, 2. Failure to realize that the acceleration lane was also a deceleration lane for exiting traffic. The driver of the yellow car failed to slow adequately, signal, and make a lane change at the proper time, thereby preventing the driver of the blue car from devoting full attention to the road ahead. He didn't realize that lane change courtesy is often a matter of self-preservation. Changing lanes sooner would have been better than slowing, since a lane change signal would have been more obvious to the driver of the blue car than a slight change in speed. In summary, this collision was the result of mistakes made by each of the persons involved rather than deliberate, unsafe driving acts. Regardless of who is legally at fault, most collisions can be prevented by the properly timed responses of one or more of the persons involved. This course will not be concerned with the questions of who is legally responsible for a collision, but rather the prevention of crashes. Segment 3. Introductions to future sessions. Managing visibility, time and space. First offender. This is the first of the instructional sessions that make up AAA's First Offender Driver Improvement Program. The purpose of this program is to develop better driver awareness and responsibility, not to punish traffic offenders. Through the description of traffic situations, the program demonstrates that common traffic violations, such as speeding, following too closely, running red lights, and stop signs, can be prevented. The concepts presented in this session are: 1. Breaking the law. Drivers put themselves and others in danger by breaking traffic laws. 2. Other common violations. Yellow caution lights, tailgating, and stop signs are common violations. 3. Risk management. Risk management involves controlling visibility, time and space, and being aware of the amount of traction available. 4. Crash prevention. Traffic crashes are caused by preventable mistakes committed by all drivers involved. And 5. Your attitude toward the program. Participants may be surprised that with an open mind, they can learn a lot through group discussion and interaction. Segment 1. Breaking the Law. Segment 1, Breaking the Law, is designed to emphasize how drivers put themselves and others at risk by breaking traffic laws.
This is one of America's most popular activities. There are around 190 million drivers on the road today. Altogether, they drive about 2.3 trillion miles a year. That's a lot of miles. It's also expensive. Each year, collisions like these cost over $180 billion. Unfortunately, it's a grim business. In the average year, about 34 million drivers are involved in crashes. In addition, over 3 million people are injured and about 41,000 people die in traffic crashes. That's about 71% of the 58,000 American troops killed in the entire 10 years of the Vietnam War.
So what's this got to do with me? I'm not here because I had a collision. I might have had one, but that's not the reason I'm here.
True, you're here for the same reason everyone else is. You broke a traffic law.
Okay, but I've had a pretty good record up till now. This is only the second ticket I've ever had, and the first one was 5 years ago. Does that make me some kind of criminal?
Of course not. But let's be honest. You didn't just break a traffic law once or twice. You've just been caught once or twice.
Yeah, you're right. But people break traffic laws all the time. Some are just luckier than I am.
It's not just a matter of luck. Statistics show that a driver who has had just one conviction for a moving violation in a 12-month period is twice as likely to be in a crash in the next 12 months as a driver who hasn't had a conviction. A driver who has had 2 convictions is 3 times as likely to be in a crash.
Okay, but those figures are based on averages. They don't mean that I'm going to have a collision.
No, any more than batting averages mean that this 100 hitter isn't going to get on base. But wouldn't you rather have a 300 hitter up there? And which of the two would you pull out for a lesson on hitting?
The 100 hitter, obviously, but that's different. Anyone who can only hit 100 is pretty lousy. I'm not a lousy driver. I wasn't doing anything really bad when I got picked up.
What were you doing?
I was just driving down this country road. There wasn't a thing in front of me, so I was moving right along.
How fast were you going?
The cop said that according to his radar I was doing 55. I suppose I was. But like I told him, there wasn't a soul on the road. I had it all to myself. Sure, I was speeding a little, but what's so dangerous about that?
Well, let's ask the others.
Segment 2, Common Violations. Segment 2, Common Violations, is designed to emphasize how common traffic violations such as running yellow signal lights, stop signs, and tailgating tickets can be avoided.
In this situation, there were some things you apparently didn't see. For one, you didn't see the cop with a radar near the curve.
That's for sure.
Take this situation, for example. A lot of people don't realize that while it may be legal, it's hazardous to enter an intersection immediately after the light turns green. They figure as long as the light is green, they're safe.
Why aren't they safe? If they enter the intersection on a green light, why would anyone hit them?
There's why. This driver attempted to make it through on the yellow light, but was too late. The number of drivers pushing their luck and trying to beat the light, actually running red lights, has reached epidemic proportions. If you enter the intersection as soon as the light changes, this is what you may find.
Yeah, but he should have stopped. The light turned red before he entered.
True, but if you can take a chance, why can't he? The point is that any driver who jumps out as soon as the light turns green has got to expect someone else to be a little pushy too.
Okay, but I still say you don't have to be doing something dangerous to get a ticket. I'll give you a good example.
Go ahead.
Here I was, following this car, when all of a sudden the driver slams on the brakes. No warning at all, just hits the brakes.
And you ran into him.
Of course I ran into him. There was no way not to. And would you believe it? The cop tagged me for following too close. Now, you tell me how that's fair.
I will.
I sort of figured you would.
What if the guy had stopped to avoid someone or something? Would it have been his fault then?
I guess not. He'd have to stop.
In other words, the only way the crash could have been avoided was if you had been far enough behind so that you would have been able to stop. The driver behind is the only one who can make sure there's enough room to stop in an emergency. That's why the law says you have to follow at a safe distance.
But he didn't have to stop. By jamming on the brakes like that, the other driver caused the collision as much as I did.
True, but you didn't get tagged for causing a collision. You got tagged for following too closely. You were breaking the law before the crash happened. You never should have been that close.
Well, I was kind of tailgating, but still, it wouldn't have happened
But
if...
nothing. It's dangerous to follow closely, no matter what. You never can tell when the car ahead is going to stop suddenly.
Okay, you win. But you'll never make me believe that everybody who gets a ticket is doing something dangerous.
I'm not going to. There are a lot of laws that may not seem to be applicable or make a difference under all circumstances. Traffic regulations are no exception.
Yeah, I can think of a few. For instance, there's this stop sign at the end of my block. It was put up just to slow down traffic through the neighborhood. There's absolutely no need to come to a complete stop. Yet I got caught rolling through it. Wham! A ticket.
But you're not saying all stop signs are unnecessary.
No, I didn't mean that. There's another one 5 blocks down at Main Street where you've got to come to a complete stop. If you're moving even a little bit, you can miss seeing another car. Sometimes they'll stay hidden behind your doorpost. No, I've got no problem with stop signs when they're really necessary.
Okay, you know these intersections. You feel you can judge when it's necessary to come to a complete stop and when it isn't. But are you aware that on average, 2 out of 3 drivers do not stop for stop signs? In fact, in residential areas, the numbers frequently increase to 9 out of 10. Would you like to guess where most crashes occur and why they happen? It's rather obvious that a lot of drivers believe that they can tell whether or not it's really necessary to stop at a stop sign or traffic light. It's just as obvious that a lot of them make the wrong decision. If you think about it, the basic reason we have traffic laws, signs, signals, and markings is to better enable road users to predict what other users are going to do. They provide rules for actions designed to make highways safe for everyone.
Go ahead, tell it to the judge. That's what they're there for.
The trouble is, not many people break traffic laws because they think it's safe to do so. They don't think about it at all until after they've been stopped.
So you really believe that if people know what safe driving is and always drive that way, they don't need to worry about the law?
Well, let me say that I have yet to see anyone sent to this class for driving safely.
Segment 5, Your Attitude Toward the Program. Segment 5, Your Attitude Toward the Program, is designed to introduce participants to other topics covered in the course and encourage group discussion and interaction.
Okay, let me get this straight. You say that staying legal is just a matter of safe driving?
Right. Being a safe driver is being a smooth driver. People who drive safely get where they're going quickly, without hassle, and without shaking up their passengers. Others feel comfortable riding with them.
I'm not sure I agree, but I'm willing to listen. Does this mean you're not going to be yakking at me about traffic laws and violations and things like that?
Right. We'll be discussing ways to be a smooth, safe driver. We'll be discussing some traffic laws, usually as they relate to situations. But that's not our main goal.
Well, that's a help. But how do I know I'm going to learn anything? I've been driving a long time.
Well, I can't give you any guarantees. But millions of drivers have taken courses like this one on their own or through the place where they work.
I didn't realize that. What do they learn?
The same kinds of things you'll learn here. In the next session, you'll learn how to use your eyes better, to spot trouble before it happens. After that, we'll talk about communication, how you can tell people what you're going to do, and how you can read the little signs that tell you what they're going to do. Then we'll have a session on speed.
That's when you tell me to slow down. Speed kills, right?
No, that's when we'll show you how to adjust your speed to conditions. Sometimes that means driving a little faster or slower. We will also discuss actions to take that may help you avoid the need to rush to get where you're going.
That's a switch.
Then we'll show you how to keep a margin of safety between you and other cars. To give yourself time to react in case other drivers do something you don't expect.
There's a session on driving emergencies. What's that about?
It presents ways to handle dangerous situations like brake failure, skids, the value of safety restraints, and better ways to steer and brake if an emergency does arise.
Sounds interesting.
The last session deals with you.
Me?
Well, not you personally, but you as a driver. It's concerned with making sure you're always in shape to be the best possible driver. Much of it deals with drinking and driving.
Yeah, I know. If you drink, don't drive.
No, I won't say that.
Well, you're not going to say that I can drink and drive.
I don't know whether you can or not, but we'll help you try to find out. We'll also look at emotions, fatigue, and other drugs.
This I've got to see.
I think you'll find it interesting.
Interesting enough to drag me here for 6 to 8 hours?
A lot of other people have thought so.
Well, like I say, I have my doubts, but I'm willing to see.
I'm afraid you do.
I know. If I get any more tickets, I may have my license lifted.
Well, I didn't want to bring it up, but that is a possibility. And while we're on the subject, you not only have to show up, you have to get something out of it. You don't realize how much you depend upon wheels until you don't have them. Think of having to get to work every day without them, getting to friends' houses, going out to dinner or a show, always having to depend on somebody else or public transportation.
Listen, you don't need to convince me. My car was in the garage for a couple of days last month, and I almost went out of my mind.
Well, think about several months without wheels.
I get your point.
Okay, but the point is, there's no reason why you should lose your license. We're here to help you. Hopefully, we can point out some things you may not know about driving that can keep you from being stopped again. Maybe we can keep you from having a collision.
Well, like I said, I'm not sure you can really help me do all of those things, but I'm willing to let you try.
Fair enough.
Managing visibility, time, and space. Seeing. This session is designed to help drivers better use their eyes to gather data. This is accomplished through providing instruction on 1. Techniques for gathering driving information, 2. Caring for their eyes, and 3. Preparing the vehicle for seeing. 4 concepts are presented. They are 1. Establishing a 20 to 30 second visual lead ahead along one's intended path of travel. 2. Employing a visual routine to collect information from behind and using the proper sequence of mirror and head checks for various driving maneuvers. 3. Checking the sides and looking both ways at intersections to be sure the path is clear of obstructions or possible conflicts. And 4. Compensating for driver, vehicle, and environmental factors that can impair one's ability to see. Segment 1. Establishing a safe visual lead. This first segment deals with establishing a 20-second visual lead to improve your ability to see and be seen.
Your eyes, the most important thing you have going for you when you drive. Almost everything you do is in response to what your eyes tell you. Like most experienced drivers, you probably use your eyes pretty well to see where you're going, where you want to be going, and what's coming. Like most drivers, you may not be using your eyes as well as you could. A study done by the U.S. Department of Transportation showed that the leading cause of collisions was not looking in the right place at the right time. This session is intended to help you make better use of your eyes. For example, how quickly did you notice the van? If you are in the habit of looking well down the road, you'll see things like this early. That'll give you more time to react. Some drivers look just ahead of their car. They wouldn't notice the van until they're almost on top of it. Now we're trapped. We'll have to wait until traffic clears.